but it definitely gets easier. So for me, a lot of it was just picking up, calling 150 people a day, 160 people a day, and banging my head on the wall. But finally starting to have success, and now it's a lot easier. And I will say for all of you guys, if you're new, this business gets easier. You just got to stick through it. Really, it takes time. It's not a get rich quick scheme when you're not going to drive around a Cadillac and show $1 million homes and, like the people on TV do, which is not reality. They call it reality TV, but to me, it's unrealistic to show somebody 3 houses, and it doesn't happen that way sometimes. But so for me, it was just a matter of the hard work pays off. I think that's really kind of what I've learned through this business, is that the hard work does pay off, and then eventually people call you back. So like now, I don't have to sit down and make all of those calls every day because my phone rings. People call me, past clients call me back. I get referrals. I don't have to do all the stuff I had to do in the beginning. Because I think if I did, I would have burnt out. If I'm still doing that 4 years later, I'd probably burn out by now. So really, that's just a matter of where that kind of plays off, and really kind of tying into what you guys are wanting to talk about lead generation is I really would love to help you guys with your scripting, help you guys. Cause I think right now we have a huge opportunity. I was on a call with James Shaw yesterday, who does those pivots in the morning. I was able to talk to him kind of one-on-one for a few minutes and asking him. And really what he talked about was we have to be having those conversations with people, take 2 hours every day and call your sphere of influence and ask them how they're doing. It's not about asking them for business. It's about establishing that relationship so that when the market comes back, they're ready to have that conversation. Who are they going to call? They're going to call you because they've got that relationship with you. And it's about the relationship. It's not about the business. It's about the relationship. And when you focus on the relationship, the business will come, the money will come, those things will happen. But it's not about focusing on that. The focus should be on that relationship and nurturing that relationship so that those 300 people, 400, however many people you're able to reach and have that relationship with, eventually they're going to be ready to buy or sell either now or when we come out of this, situation we're in. But I'll be honest with you, I've had more success since this started in conversations with lead generating than I did before, because I think people are just more apt to have that conversation. They realize that uncertainty is ahead, and they're more apt, in my opinion, to list right now with an agent than they were 2 or 3 months ago, because they could almost do it, especially for sell by owners that I talk with, they were more apt to say, I can just do it by myself. I just put the sign in the yard and it'll sell, which is somewhat true because the market we were in then as opposed to the market we're in now. So
what conversation do you have with a for sale by owner right now to get to that point?
So really the conversation that I'm having, the script that I've been using is one that Gary and Jay talked about, is that really it's going to take 3 to 4 years for the market to get back where it is now. So if you don't sell your house in the next couple months, and we don't know how long it's going to take for really I don't know about you guys in South Carolina, we really haven't seen the effect here yet. I think it's coming. It's definitely coming. And I've had a few transactions that like where the buyer got furloughed and they had to back out. We've had a few of those go on, but we haven't seen a full effect of any type of recession yet. But I mean, the longer the thing goes on, the more people it's going to affect, the more people that get laid off, the more people that won't be able to qualify for loans and, transactions.
So let me ask you this too. So I just started streaming it to our office Facebook groups. I just wanted to go back and ask you this. So you're an individual agent. You did how many transactions last year?
Yeah, so did 94 transactions last year, was a number 7 individual agent in the Carolinas. And that was really my goal when I started. When I went to the first family reunion, I said, I want to get on that stage. So I set that as my goal last year, and I was just shy of 20 million in volume.
And did you have an assistant last year?
I did. So I had an assistant up until September, and then I fired her because it was just becoming where I was paying somebody to do minimal work. So I learned my lesson, and what scared me was I went to a breakout family reunion. They said, you're going to hire probably 50 assistants. I'm like, 50? It's finding that one. Yeah, finding that right person. And so that's what I'm going through right now. I actually just hired somebody and they start next week. So I've been solo here for about 3 months, but I'm ready for help again. And trying to just learn that leverage piece,
So lead gen, as somebody who does that many transactions, are you still having time for your, lead generation and those activities?
Yes, I would say I'm not as devoted as I was. Of course, when I started out, that's all I had time to do was lead gen. As a new agent, that's all I was doing was all day calling people. I don't have that time like I used to have, so I would say it's not as, not as dedicated as it was, but that's where I'm trying to get back to and working on that leverage piece to where I'm taking those 2 to 3 hours every morning to lead generate, and get back into the basics. Cause I think that's where we should all be heading, is getting back into the basics as we head towards a recession. It's a matter of getting back towards doing the basics. That's really kind of where I'm trying to get to is not be fancy, be, simple and easy. Do the simple thing and, stick to that. So yes, I still do lead generate every day, but it's not in a structured sense like it will.
And so what have you noticed a difference in lead generation now compared to, lead generation and conversion? Because I think a lot of the questions that people on this call have had, and we've got some people watching on Facebook too, people that have had questions are, they're finding more people at home, I think, as on a whole, but actually getting them over that hump to say, hey, let's actually do something, now rather than later. What kind of things are you saying, or having conversations with people about to get over that hump?
Sure. So I think a lot of the scripting, and I've adapted and changed my scripting. I mean, everybody should use scripts, whether it's a bold script or it's your script that you adapt to yourself. I mean, I have some scripts that I in bold that I don't like, so I've thrown them out.
Sure.
I try to stick to, we should all pretty much have a script memorized that we use almost on every call. That's kind of how I feel. Because it's like the one thing book. You can do this and that and this and that and this and that. But if you're not an expert in one thing, you're not going to be good at everything. So you got to find that one thing, focus on it, and use it. So really, to me, I've kind of zeroed in on my script, what makes me who I am, what gets me in the door for that appointment. Because I know for, looking at my stats, if I get in the door, I close about 90% of appointments. So to me, it's a matter of getting in the door. And really, I think it's a matter, too, of the nurture side of it. Do I close every appointment on the first appointment? No. Most of the time it's going to be getting that appointment, and that establishes that relationship. And then it's the follow-up piece. And I think that's where I think most realtors stop and fail. They make the one phone call and they give up, and I've had several, and I've tracked this recently where I've had several for sale by owners, and it takes 10, 15, 20 phone calls, even just to get an appointment. And it's just a matter of as simple as, hey, I'm just calling again to follow up, right? It's a 30-second phone call. Leave a message, call back in 2 weeks, leave a message, call back in 2 weeks, leave a message. Eventually that phone rings and I got that appointment. But I look at it, okay, if I spent 20 minutes leaving messages and I get a $6,000 commission, it was worth the 20 minutes and leave a message. I mean, if you look at the pay per hour, it's worth it. You're making $500 to $750 an hour. Who wouldn't pick up the phone and leave a message? And to me, it's a couple things. It's follow up, and it's doing what you say you're going to do. And to me, those are the biggest things when I set an appointment. If I tell them I'm not coming with contracts, I don't come with contracts. I have them in the car, but I don't have them on me. I always come prepared and know that, okay, if they're ready to list, I'm ready to list. But at the same point in time, I'm not going in there pushing contracts in their face. I'm coming in there, coming from contribution. So as far as my scripting goes, a couple of things that I've adapted and used. One is, are you ready to sell? Because if you're ready to sell now, you need to sell now. Because if you wait, 3 months, the market's going to take 3 to 4 years to get back where it's at. That to me has been a huge script. It's been successful in getting people to that conversation. Because I know if I can keep somebody on the phone long enough, I'm going to hear no, 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 no. But if I can get to that yes, and that's right, that's my goal in that conversation is to get to a yes. And really, a lot of times that yes maybe, is it okay if I follow up with you in a couple of weeks? Nobody hardly ever will say no to that unless they've hung up on me or cursed me out, which does happen, from time to time. But really, it's just having that conversation. And then the other question is there a dollar amount that if you walked away with today, you'd be open with listing with me today? And what is that dollar amount? Because a lot of times that dollar amount can easily be overcome with a for sale by owner or an expired. Let's say the for sale by owner has it listed, and I've had this happen recently, actually on 3 listings. One, they had it listed at 110,000. I sold it in a day for 150. So they were just way underpriced. It appraised, good to go. I have another one that's actually not too far from my house. They had it listed at 145. We went on the market at 170. They went under contract at 165. It appraised, sold, no problem. So a lot of times it's an uneducated seller. They just don't know. Like, for example, the one they just listed it at what it appraised for the last time when they bought it 2 years ago. Well, the market's changed drastically in 2 years. So that was an easy conversation. So sometimes it's easy conversion. Those are the ones I look for, and there's a couple tricks I think that most people don't know. One thing I'd recommend for all of you to do is to go on to Zillow, subscribe, to where you get an email. So I get an email every time a for sale by owner hits the market. It comes right to my phone. Boom, I call that person immediately. Because I know statistics show, NAR shows, if you're the first person in there, you're more than likely the person they're going to list with. If you're the first conversation they have, you're more than likely the person they're going to call first. So you got to be the first one in the door. And so to me, that's the key, is being that first phone call, being that first contact, because 15 agents may call them. But if I'm the first one, and I can be the first one to set that appointment, I'm more than likely the one that's going to convert that lead. So to me, I look at that as the cheap man's way of spending money on leads is I don't spend any money on leads because Zillow sends them to me. As much as I hate Zillow and Premier Agent and all that stuff, Zillow is still a necessary tool that we should use as agents. And that's just a little trick that I use, and it's really paid off because I know
get the leads by subscribing and not paying them. That's even better, right?
Right. I'm not paying 500. I mean, we have agents in our office that spend $3,000 or $4,000 a month on leads. I'm like, why? For a possible conversion. Whereas I know if I get a listing, well, I'm going to get sign calls, I'm going to get leads, internet leads, but I'm not paying for those, and that's really been kind of my mindset since the beginning is how can I run my business as cheaply as possible? Give 100% customer service where I don't have to give somebody a $150 knife for them to call me back. They're going to call me back because I gave them good service, or they're going to refer me to their friends because I gave them good service and because I stay in contact with them. Now, the challenge I've had is as I grow bigger, how can I service all my clients at the same level I was, when I started and I had that one buyer, those two buyers. Now, if I've got, 15 to 25 people under contract at a time, how do I service all those people effectively? And that's where I've had to start working on my leverage piece because that's where I'm personally growing. But as far as the lead generating piece, I think it's a matter of being authentic, being real with people and having a conversation with them. And of course it's, the more people you call, you're going to eventually get a yes. And I think it's being persistent and being consistent.
So what you mentioned follow-up a few times, and I think that may be one of the pieces or one of the questions that some of our agents have, because we've had a lot of people. One of our guys that's on this call has talked about how he's had some for sale by owners. He's talked to them, had been in conversation with them, and they wind up listing with somebody else. What does your follow-up look like? And how often do you see that happen to you also? Is that a common occurrence where for sale by owners might list with somebody else instead of you?
I see that from time to time. And a lot of times I think what happens is usually somebody beats me to it. Somebody got in the door first. They had that first conversation. I had one last week that happened. It was another agent in our office. I called him and congratulated him. I said, you beat me to that one. I don't know how he got the number before I did, and it happens. I mean, we're in competition with each other. That's the one thing that I think has surprised me so much in this business is when I got into it, I'm like, man, I'm gonna be competing against everybody. It is so rare when I go on an appointment that they've met with another agent from my office, that I'm competing with somebody. It happens from time to time, but it's pretty rare. So as far as my follow-up system, the way it works is my systems are not amazing. I don't have this great, I literally do it old school where I have a notebook. I write down phone numbers in that notebook and I keep notes in that notebook. I used to use Land Voice or some of these online things, but the notebook to me has been a lot easier because it's tangible. I can put it in my hands. I can look back and look at my notes in there, and I can basically go on my phone and say, okay, I put in there, okay, I said I would call that person in 2 weeks, put it in my phone, that reminder comes up, okay, it's time to call that person. I'm going to follow up with that lead. So it's really just it's a simplified way that works for me, and what works for me may not work for you, and what works for you may not work for me. But, I think we all have to find our system because, systems and models are the key to this business, because if you don't have systems and models, you're not going to last. And it's a matter of we got to have those things set up and then implement those systems and models, because we could have the greatest systems and models, but if we're not using them, then what is the point? And I heard a great quote yesterday that's stuck with me since. And Matt, you're the one that talked to me about it, and it's are you working in your business or are you working on your business? And we had that 10-minute conversation that stuck with me, and I thought about that all day yesterday and said, okay, I've got to stop working in my business, start working on my business. And that's getting on these calls, that's being in trainings. And of course you could, you still need to work in your business, but I think if we're working on our business, that's how it's going to grow, and that's how it's going to thrive, and that's how it's going to, break through those ceilings, because we all hit those ceilings, and I've hit them every year. Okay, I did 30 transactions. Okay, now I did 50. Now I did 75. Okay, now I've got to hire because, Kent Temple laughs at me every time because, he's like, when you get to 25 transactions, you should have an assistant. Well, I didn't hire an assistant until I got to 60. And I don't recommend that because, you will burn out at some point. And I think that's kind of where I'm at personally, but the lead generating part is we should be doing lead generation every day. Right. And lead generation can be done in many forms. You could write note cards. You can, well, not right now, but you could door knock. I don't recommend that in this climate. But there's a million different ways you can lead generate. But I think the key is you got to have those conversations and purposeful conversations with the right people at the right time. And with for sale by owners, now may not be the right time, but in a week it may be. And that's what I think I've realized with the follow-up piece is you got to get them at the right time.
So are you usually following, like, are you talking to a for sale by owner today and then you call them again in 3 days, a week, 2 weeks? What's your usual second call time?
Typically I ask, is it okay if I follow back up in a week or two? Because I don't want to seem like somebody that's calling them every day, and I've heard different things on that. I remember there was a top agent at a mastermind I was in one time, and they called it 10 days of pain. Or if they get a lead in or they get it for sale by owner, they're going to call, text, email for 10 straight days. If they don't hear something back, then they fall off, their feedback or their follow-up system. But typically for me, it's going to be a matter of if I make that contact, I'm going to call back in a week or two, usually in a week. Like, for example, if I talk to somebody today and they say it's okay to call them back, I might call back Monday or Tuesday of next week and have another conversation. And a lot of times they won't answer. So it's me leaving a message. Just, hey, this is Robby calling back from Keller Williams. I told you I'd give you a call back in a week. Just following up, wanted to see how things were going, see if there's anything I could do to help you out. Feel free to give me a call back when you can. And with for sale by owners, it's really a matter of you got to hook and trigger them. And I think the hook is when I call, I'm not telling them I'm a realtor. I'm just telling them, hey, I'm calling to see if your house is for sale because I want them to call me back. You call and say, hey, I'm so-and-so calling from Keller Williams. They're like, realtor, hang up. I'm not calling that back. But if you call just asking for interest in their home, they're going to call you back more than likely. What surprises me is how many people don't. And then when they call back, I'm like, hey, I left you 5 messages and you're just now calling me back. I think you need a real estate agent because you're not following up with potential buyers like you should be. And using that script is helpful too. But I think it's just a matter of them seeing the persistence, and persistence pays off, in any business. The more persistent you are, the more successful you're going to be. And it's not being a jerk and annoying and nagging somebody. I mean, if somebody tells me not to call them, I don't call them. I mean, I take them off the list. I'm not, because that's not worth my time. If they've shut that door down, if they curse me out, now if they hang up on me, I usually call back. Say, hey, we got disconnected, but if they hang up again, I'm not going to be that kind of person. I mean, some people will, but that's just not who I am.
Yeah. Find the motivator, right? Don't argue with somebody trying to sell.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what questions do you guys, and if you're on Facebook watching, you can type something in the chat or in the comments on Facebook if you're watching, or just come join us in the Zoom. But what kind of questions do you guys have for Robby?
Hey, Robby, this is Richard. Hey, on for sale, is that your main lead gen source is for sale by owners?
Yes. So that's still literally where I continue to build and build my pipeline. And of course, now I've got a pretty good sphere of influence too, but I don't typically lead gen in that sphere of influence. I rely on that sphere of influence to, refer me out and do stuff like that. And I have made care calls, of course, with what's going on right now. I still do touch my database. Absolutely. Put people on campaigns. And of course I have done Facebook ads, through command, because $25 and you get 50, 60 leads. So I do that, but still my main source of lead generating is for sale by owners. And
I apologize. I came on a little late. Did you discuss what your first call is looking like? So you get the notification from Zillow. What is your initial call and then follow-up system? Do you preview homes first? Do you go directly for the listing? What does that look like?
So my key on the first step is get my foot in the door, right? And so really the conversation is ring, hey, Mr. For Sale by Owner, how's it going today? I was just calling to see if your house is for sale at 123 Main Street. Is it still for sale? Yes. Wonderful. I'm a real estate agent with Keller Williams Realty, and I was just calling to see if you might be interested in listing your house with an agent. I just go direct, have that direct conversation. Usually it's no, right? Great. Well, I totally understand. I know realtors probably call you every day right now, but I would love to just add value to you. Would you be open to just allowing me to come see your home? And then I can put together what's called a market analysis for you. There's no charge for that. And again, I'm not coming with contracts. I'm just coming to see your home and see what I can do to help you sell it. And then if it's no again, I totally understand, and I'm not calling to be annoying. Would it be okay if I just follow back up with you in a week or two and see how things are going? Sure. No problem. Great. And just so you know, I'm a real estate agent and I've been doing this, for years now, and I would love to just be a resource to you. So if you have questions or something comes up, you go under contract, you don't know what that document is that you have to sign, or you have a question on anything within the transaction, feel free to keep my phone number. I'd be happy to just be a resource to you. So you can call me anytime you need me. And again, I'm not going to charge you anything. I'm just there to be a friend, be there to help you out. And usually that leads to more conversation. So it's really, and nobody's ever called me. I mean, I yet to have somebody call me in the course of a transaction that I'd use that script on every call, because I want them to see that I'm coming from contribution. I'm not coming to, try to take their money. I'm coming to try to help them, so that's really kind of my main script, main bread and butter that I use on just about every call. Of course, I adapt that and change that. Like, I don't have to go into all of that. If they're open to meeting with me, I won't go into all of that. But that's really just kind of my trick and hooker really at that point. It's just opening that door to hearing a yes, they're okay with follow-up. And then just so they know that I'm coming from contribution. That's really my main script that I use consistently. And of course, some of that changes and adapts depending upon how the conversation goes. But yeah, typically that's the main script part that I'll use.
From the initial contact, how long would you say the average, like how many follow-ups and how many like length of time does it last or take until you get a listing appointment?
So it varies. I mean, like, so I made like not many, maybe 5 calls yesterday, and I've got a listing appointment today. So, you know, for me on average, it's probably about, if I lead generate and call 20 for sell by owners, I can usually set 1 appointment. So I'm probably about 20 to 1. And as far as follow-up goes, that's what you were asking, as far as like how many follow-up calls I have to make. I'd say it's usually, it averages probably anywhere from 3 to 5. You know, the hard part, of course, with our market, and I'm sure yours is the same way, a lot of times they go under contract in that amount of time. So to me, I'm kind of trying to beat that. Some of that's changed a little bit now in this climate, but I would say somewhere between 3 and 5, you know, follow-up calls before an appointment can get set.
Yeah, my challenge right now is, you know, I'm getting in the door. I go at it as wanting to help them as a resource and also as a buyer's agent to see if they're willing to work with a buyer's agent. And so I'm pretty much getting in the door in every for sale by owner. My issue or challenge is that I'm just not getting the listing appointment. I'm following up. They're actually calling me. I just had a guy, he ended up selling it for sale by owner. And, but I mean, he called me multiple times asking me what I thought about this and things like that. So I come at it as a resource as well. And so I get and build, you know, pretty solid relationships that I believe. And then next thing I know, they didn't answer the phone 2 weeks in a row. And then they've listed with another agent. So I'm not even getting the at bat to even have the listing appointment. So that's where I'm finding the challenge at.
Getting put in the friend zone.
Yeah, what that sounds like is your scripting is good at the beginning, but then once you get into the appointment, and that part of that might be your listing presentation itself, you know, and
not even getting the opportunity to do a listing presentation.
But you still are going to so basically you're going to preview the home, but then you're not getting anywhere beyond that. Like, they're letting you in the door to see the house, but then everything shuts down at that point.
Correct.
So I'd say part of that is, you know, when you go preview that home, you need to treat that as a listing appointment. That's how I do it. You know, you need to be ready to do a listing appointment when you go preview the home. Because to me, I consider that a listing appointment. They're letting you in the house. Obviously, they need to sell the house, so they're a motivated seller. So how do you close that appointment and make that an appointment rather than making that a preview? Like, for example, when you go to that preview, do you have all your listing paperwork ready to go? Not pre-filled, but do you have that in your car? You have that stuff? Because I do.
No.
Okay, so I'd recommend that. And do you try to close it when you're in that preview? Or do you literally just go and say, hey, I'm just seeing the house. That's it. Thank you for letting me see the house. And you're walking out the door. Go ahead.
Yeah, I preview. I tour the house. I take notes, and then at the end, at the front door, I ask them. You know, my script is, you know, most sellers, in my experience, have a plan B if their house doesn't sell in 2-3 weeks. Are you planning on renting the house out, or are you planning on interviewing and hiring a professional like me? Is pretty much my follow-up script.
Because what I was trying to do even on a preview is get to the kitchen table, sit down with them across the table, run numbers for them. That's what I do on every preview. Say, great, thank you so much. Oh yeah, thank you so much for letting me see the house. I'd love to sit down, just give you an idea on kind of, and I come in with do you go with the market analysis? Because what I always do is do a pre-market analysis before I go to the home. I've already run numbers on the neighborhood, run numbers on the comps. I mean, I'm ready to go. I'm ready. I'm going in with that mindset of, hey, I'm ready to list. Even if they're not ready to list, I'm ready to list, because I know that they're at the point where they're ready to let you inside. They're opening their home to you. We need to be ready to close the deal. So I think it's a matter of, you got to treat that as a listing appointment. Even if they're not treating it as a listing appointment, you need to treat it as a listing appointment. So I try to get to that kitchen table. We sit down. Okay, so here are the comps that I ran in your neighborhood, or, rural. It can be a little bit trickier if you're out in rural areas. But I always try to either I'm doing a market analysis or I'm coming with comps and saying, hey, I just want to share these comps with you. I don't know if you know that the house 3 doors down sold for $285. It was this much square footage. Of course, I've not been in that house. I've looked at the pictures. It's really similar to your house. It's got granite countertops. It's got a fenced yard. So here's kind of my opinion on what the house would sell for. If I were to list it today, here's what I would sell it for. And I would love to just go over with you the cost of sales. So here's the cost of sale. Here's what the commission would be. Here's what, the excise tax would be. Here's what the deed prep would be. Here, just a generic net sheet. Go in with a net sheet, go over it with them. And then at the end of it, to me, the question is, hey, if I can get this for you today and you can walk away with this, I don't need to know what you owe on the house. Don't tell me what you owe. It's amazing how many people will open that up. And I use that as a script too. Here, this is why you need a realtor. You should not be telling everybody that comes to this house that you only owe $150,000 on it. You just literally gave them a negotiating piece, because now they know you're walking away with $100,000. Whereas as your realtor, I'm protecting you. They don't need to know any of that. They don't need to know if you have no loan on it. That's why you need a real estate agent. You need somebody to negotiate for you, be in your corner, that is literally representing you and is literally protecting you as well. But sit down with that net sheet and ask that question at the end. Like, okay, let's say the house is worth $300,000 on your comps that you came up with. You feel pretty solid. If I could sell your house in 30 days or less for $300,000 and you could walk away with this number, would you be interested in listing with me today? Ask that question. Most of the time, they're going to be pretty receptive, because and again, if they're backwards or they're upside down, the situation might not be there. But I think part of the issue is your process when you're previewing. I think your preview needs to be seen as a listing appointment, because again, you may never get in front of those people again. So
yeah, I haven't been.
Yeah. And so to me, if you can get in front of those people, take the opportunity, ask for the business more than once, rather than saying, hey, thank you so much for seeing my home. And then, and not that there's anything wrong with that. That's fine. But I think the piece you're missing is sitting down and treating that as a listing appointment, because I treat every opportunity as a listing appointment. It's just like you need to treat every opportunity to close a deal. If you can close a deal, treat every opportunity that way. Because I can guarantee you probably what's happening is that other realtor's going in there and that other realtor is doing that. And that's, I think, what maybe the missing link may be, is that you're not looking at it that way. And I always have, a folder with the WWREA. I don't know how you guys do things down there, but listing agreement, disclosures, everything ready to go. So I recommend that, because I never know where I'm going to be. I never know if I'm going to sit down. And only time I've been unprepared was I sat down with a guy one time. He was ready to list 7 properties. I was ready to list 3. So I didn't have paperwork for 7 properties. I had paperwork for 3. So I had to go back to the office and print that stuff out. But I carry a binder with me in my briefcase that has all of that stuff. So I have blank listing agreements. I have blank disclosures. I have blank WWREAs, because I'm ready to go. I don't know if I'm going to be at the grocery store and someone wants to list their house. I don't know. So I'd rather be ready than not be ready. So that's one thing I would highly recommend for all of you guys, is be ready to go wherever you're at, because I want to be prepared and not unprepared. Because the worst thing I need is you go into that appointment, you don't know if they're meeting with somebody right after you, and in the amount of time you went back to the office to print that paperwork, you go back, they've already signed a listing agreement. You don't know. You don't know how motivated they are until you get in that house. But I think my recommendation would be is change your processes. Change the way you're thinking when you go into that appointment. Because I think if you go in that way, they may be more receptive to list with you than you may think, because you don't know what the situation is. You don't know what they think their house is worth. That may be $30,000 more than they were thinking. So, if you can go down there and show them that value at the end, show them those comps at the end that you have, because that's knowledge you have that they don't, right? They have Zillow. Problem is, not everybody goes on to Zillow and says their house sold. Not everybody goes on to Zillow and puts accurate information on there. You have the MLS, what an appraiser is going to use, what an appraiser is going to appraise that house based on the MLS. Now, their opinion may be different than yours, but we can give them a pretty concrete idea on what the house is going to sell based on comps, and close that deal. Because I mean, really, honestly, if you can sit down and do that, I'd be surprised if you had 5 appointments next week if you didn't close one of them doing that, to be honest. Unless
if you're worried about them not calling you, sorry, Robby, I was just gonna say, if you're worried about them not calling you back because you're, presenting that and you're being, more aggressive at trying to get that listing appointment, if they're not calling you back anyway, that doesn't really matter, right?
No, you're probably not going to get that listing anyways.
Right. And how much time have you wasted doing that, rather than being direct and ready to go? Because I mean, and some people are turned off by that, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not somebody that's overly aggressive. I mean, I've met with for sale by owners before who literally have said agents have come in and just forced me to sign paperwork, forced me to sit down. Well, I'm not doing that. I'm just, again, coming from a place of contribution, but coming from a place of contribution where it's more direct and less, well, thank you. And I think that's where a lot of agents miss the boat, to be honest. They get scared, they get timid, they get afraid. You can't be afraid to ask for business. I mean, that's just part of what our job is we have to ask for business, because that's our livelihood. I feel bad if you're wasting, an hour, say you're preparing for an appointment, maybe you spent an hour doing that. You're driving to the house and back, so that's another 30 minutes. You're there for 30 minutes. You just wasted 2 hours, and you had an opportunity to ask for business, but you didn't. And that's where I think that it sets us apart, is you got to be able to close. If you can't close, you got to work on that and fix that, because closing the deal is the key. You could have the greatest listing presentation in the world, but if you can't close, that means nothing, And I'll be honest, I don't have a great listing presentation. Mine is conversation. I used to use a booklet and all this stuff, but that's just not who I am. I chucked that, and now I just literally have a conversation with somebody, because to me, that's the effectiveness. If you're relying on something and trying to flip through this and that, and here's this graph and here's this, to me, it's like, let's be honest, let's be real, let's have a conversation, and let's see where that gets us, and to me, it's worked. And I'm sure people are in South Carolina aren't much different than people in North Carolina. It's just a matter of, having that conversation and closing the deal. And if they're not ready, they're not ready. At that point, no problem. Totally understand. I'm going to leave this stuff with you, so you have this net sheet so you understand how that works. Here's my card. I'm going to follow back up with you in a week. And again, just, call me if you need anything. But really, you should be asking for the close, I'd say 3 times at least in that appointment. They totally understand. I know you're not ready to list here, and this is not, what you need. What do you need? And if it's not there, it's not there. But at the same point in time, eventually it will be, because they'll probably have their house priced too high. And then the other conversation I have with them is, hey, you're already paying 3%. So here's the way you got to look at it. If you've got a $300,000 house, you're paying $9,000 in commission already. Would it be worth $9,000 to you for me to come in, take all the pressure off of you? You don't have to worry about showing your house. You don't have to worry about staging your house. I take care of the professional photography. I'm putting a risk in this too, because I'm spending money on marketing. I'm spending money on a photographer. I'm putting a risk in you just like you're putting a risk in me. And I've got no guarantee that I'm going to make 50 cents on this transaction, but I've just spent hundreds of dollars to get your house ready to go on the market. And I'm risking too. So I'm ready to risk this property as well. So will you take the risk in me if I take the risk in you? And again, you don't have to sell the house. If you got an offer for this, you don't have to take it. And I think there's a lot of misconception with people that if I put the house on the market, I have to sell it. You don't have to sell the house if you don't want to. If I would love to sell your house, but at the same point in time, if you don't get the offer that's right, you don't get the situation that's right, we don't have to sell it. I still look at it as free advertising. Because again, if I get my sign in the yard, I'm more than likely going to get a couple calls. I'm more than likely to get a couple buyers. And it costs me, $150 for a photographer. They don't need to know that. But, that's about our typical cost out here. And it's a lot cheaper to do that than it is to, pay $500, $3,000 a month to Zillow or Realtor.com. Because I know the more signs I get in yards, the more opportunity I have to reach people. I don't know if that's helpful. Hopefully that was helpful, but I think it's just a matter of
very, very much, very helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I think it's, change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change.
So what other questions are out there? Laura, did you have a question? Oh, you're on mute. Sorry, Laura. Say that again.
I said I'm writing as fast as I can.
Very cool. There's a thing in the chat. Oh, Richard was on a Gene Rivers thing, and he sent into the chat earlier that he said that you need 400 applicants for one hire. So there you go, Robbie. Get your 400 applicants. So
I'm excited about that.
So anybody else, let me look at the Facebook. Anybody else have any questions for Robbie today about lead gen or conversion or scripting or any of those things, or just how in the world do you sell 95 houses by yourself?
It can be done.
This reminds me of like JT Livingston, like before he hired his first admin. I mean, I think he sold my first year with 16 here in Columbia. I mean, I think he sold like 80 homes by himself before he even had an admin.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of, at least for me too, a lot of it is focusing on what's important and not what's not important. We can get caught up in transactions all day long and focus on, I got to get this done, I got to get that done, I got to get this done. But if we focus on what's important, which is lead generation, which is lead follow-up, paperwork can take care of itself.
How do you have how do you have a life though doing that many transactions? I mean, that's a lot of transactions with no admin.
Yeah. So I actually have 5 kids and 1 on the way, and still try to hold to, family time. I'm not perfect by any means. My wife could sit here and talk to you for hours. Probably.
So now I see what you sit in the basement though, huh?
Yeah, that's why I'm down here. They're upstairs. So yeah.
You have a couch down there?
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah. Sometimes But part of it has been setting up boundaries. So I have on my voicemail, and I recommend this for every real estate agent. I have on my voicemail, if you call me after 6, I'll call you back tomorrow. You call me on Sunday, I'll call you back on Monday. I try to not work Sundays. You know, and a lot of it is just, and I'm built differently probably than most people because I work at a faster pace, you know, and I can do things quicker. Go ahead.
So, Robby, I was going to ask you about your personality. Have you taken the DISC assessment?
Yeah, I'm a high D.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
So the crowd here needs to know this comes natural to Robby, y'all. So some of this, you need to overcome your personal stuff, I guess you'd say. So a lot of high I's and some S's and some C's on the call here. But
Sure.
I picked up on you're a super high D, and I get where you're going. Are you in Kent Temple's Market Center?
No, I'm not. I'm actually in the Burlington Market Center. So Robin Hendricks, I don't know if you know Robin, but I'm in her market center. We're kind of situated between Greensboro and Raleigh.
I got you.
Actually, you know, we have a lot of agents. We have I think we're up to 265 agents in our market center, but we're really a smaller market, kind of sandwiched between two larger areas.
I got you. Well, I was going to tell you to give Pamela a hug. If you saw her.
Yeah, I see them every so often, not all the time, but I've learned a lot from Kent. I mean, I tell him all the time that, you know, he's a big motivator for me because I want to get to where he's at, and that's kind of my long-term goal.
Me too. We have roughly the same size teams over the last 5 years, and if I go into a house, I had the line of, and I led in with, I wouldn't be doing my job, meaning I wouldn't be a good realtor, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, if I didn't ask for the business.
Absolutely.
That just showed them the professional. I'm not being salesy. I'm here to be a professional.
Yep.
And I hear you on that. But I would just do the line. I wouldn't be doing my job. I wouldn't be a good realtor if I didn't ask for the business, sir.
Yeah.
And they would look at me like, that okay, that's all right. I get that.
I also use the line, like when they try to get me to negotiate on commission, you know, like, well, you know, we would list with you. Can you do it for 4.5%? I said, well, think about it this way. If you got a realtor that's willing to come in and do it at 4.5%, how well are they negotiating for you when you get a contract in? You know, how well are they protecting you? If they're willing to lower their standards, how much are they going to lower your standards to that buyer or that buyer's agent? You know?
I think Ben Kinney says, what's he say? If you sell it fast, will you take 4%? And if he goes something like, well, if I take a long time, will you pay me 8? And they're like, no, wait, what? No, hold on.
They're not going to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure that you guys have heard this in Bold and other things, but I really love the, you know, taking the $3 bills out and saying, you know, okay, here's your, you know, each percent, and this dollar bill goes to my company, this dollar bill goes to your marketing and getting your house sold, and this dollar bill goes to my family for, you know, putting food on the table. So which one of those dollar bills do you want me to take away? You want me to just not market your house? Like, I got to pay my company, I got to put food on my table. So we just don't market your house then for that piece of it. So it usually puts it out there to them.
And the tax piece, one of those dollars is for taxes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it, in my experience, just with what I've done and built here, is just, it's a matter of getting people at the right time, at the right place. That's really what it becomes, in my opinion. That's where the follow-up thing to me is the golden ticket, because you don't know where they're at. You don't know what their situation is. You don't know what they're going through. They may be receptive one day and then the next day not. And if you get them at the right time, at the right place, and I know for me, I beat every agent in our area because nobody follows up. And I'm sure it's the same in your area. The average realtor might make 1 or 2 phone calls. I mean, I've had listings where I've called people for a year and got the listing, you know, but was it worth it? Absolutely. Because that listing turned to more listings, that turned to more listings, that turned to more buyers, that, you know, built my business, and that client became a forever client. And, you know, it's just a matter of, it's a 30-second phone call every couple of weeks, not a bunch of time.
Well, if people will pick up that 500-pound phone just that one time, the fortune is in the follow-up. There is no doubt about it. I've been doing it 15 years, and I'd leave people's names in my front seat and not call people back. And they would say to another realtor, I know Franklin Jones, but he never called me back.
Yep.
That's when I started my leverage piece right there, though.
Absolutely.
And I got a buyer's agent. I mean, I did it right by accident. I got an admin first.
Sure.
And then I got a buyer's agent because my customer service was going down and I was losing listings. And it was to Kent's point to you. That's a lot of transactions for one person.
Yeah. And I'm on the leverage piece.
And then you punched me in the face with your 5 kids. What?
Never a dull moment, but I've had a hard time with leverage piece because I mean I got to the point where I just grabbed any buyer's agent I could, and it was a train wreck. So I've been through buyer's agents for left and right, and I had the perfect buyer's agent, but then she left because she was more than qualified. She shouldn't be a buyer's agent. I told her the same thing. I said, "You're not a buyer's agent. You need to go and be an individual agent." You know, and it's helping people to see that talent because to me, I'm not going to try to hold on to somebody and hold them back. You know, that's just not who I am and how I am. Granted, I want people to be with me forever. But at the same point in time, I know that that's not always reality. That's not always realistic.
Well, that's honorable of you too. Have you been to career visioning?
Yes, I took it once. I need to go take it again. And that's really my struggle right now. It's not so much that I have a problem letting go. It's that I have the struggle of finding the time to find the right person. But I know that again, that's the working in your business, working on your business piece.
Yes.
And that's my struggle, just personally. You know, I have no problem telling you and admitting it. Raise my hand. I have a problem finding the right person. So that's kind of where I'm at. And it takes time. I mean, it takes time to train a buyer's agent. It takes money to train a buyer's agent, and it takes time for that money and time to come back to you. You know, you hire buyers, it might be 3 months before they close the transaction, and you spent how many hours helping and training them. You know,
if you're selling 95 houses by yourself, it takes a while to make the same amount of money. Once you start hiring buyer's agents.
That's the painful part. It's like you stab yourself, right? As you grow, you really don't make much more money, for a while. So that's the other part. That's hard.
Yeah, we call that the messy middle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you get to stay at home with your kids more.
Absolutely.
Not that you want that. I don't know.
No,
I have 3 girls and 2 of them are twins. So when people would say, Franklin, do you want to do an open house? I'd be like, yeah, I got twins at home. I want to do an open house. Damn right. I'll sit on your sofa and eat your chips.
Yeah, and I've done 2 open houses in my career. I'm not a believer in open houses. I have enough agents that I leverage that out to. And I will say one thing that I do personally is I have a group of agents. Even though I don't have a buyer's agent, I probably have 4 or 5 because I just send buyers out to them and take the referral. So I don't take many buyers, here.
Well, that's a leverage piece. There you go. I got that.
I really don't work with buyers. I've even closed a buyer transaction this year. So
you may have mentioned that on the first part of the call. Sorry.
No, I didn't. But that is something that I've done is found high quality agents that will take a higher split with me. But they're not on my team. So I'm still individual, but at the same point in time, I'm able to leverage that out, and send those people off.
When my first buyer's agent said she was too busy to take any more buyers, I would send leads throughout the building.
Yeah.
To your point, to good agents I knew would take care of them.
Right. Absolutely. And that
sign calls.
Right. That is the leverage piece.
Cool. So out of those 95, how many were listings?
I think last year I'm definitely always listing heavy. I think it was like 65 to 30, something like that. Majority was listings. And I think
this year there hasn't been hardly any buyers, huh?
No, I've actually referred all the buyers out. So I have 2 buyers under contract right now that will close next month, but I've closed, I think 25 this year, and those have all been listings.
That's awesome.
Well, cool. Who else has something for Robby? Anybody have anything else to add or ask?
I'm on my phone, so I can't see who all's on there, Matt. But so I would start calling people out, but I won't.
Yeah, I think we're good. There was several people that asked about it, and they've asked some questions, and I've tried to make sure I've led the conversation and down the questions they've had. We've had anywhere between 5 and 10 people watching on Facebook too, so it's good. And we've got, I think, between 15 and 20 on here. So it's been lots of.
So Robby, do you go to Mega Camp and Family Reunion?
I've gone to Family Reunion, and I didn't start going until last year. Mainly just, how I am. But I mean, trying to get better at that. I've never been to Mega Camp, so I need to go to Mega Camp because I know it's more intimate and
bigger numbers type folks are in the room.
And I've been blessed and had the opportunity to. I went to a mastermind with Gary last year in Austin, and then I got invited to an individual agent mastermind, which they canceled in Austin. It was supposed to be next week, and now they're doing it via Zoom. So Monday I get to be on with Gary with about 50 agents. So I'm looking
That's awesome.
that. So
good.
That'll be
Congratulations.
Cool. So yeah, so I've had a couple of those opportunities, which have been incredible.
So at my old brand, I didn't go to one convention because I was chasing the next deal, just like you. I mean, I was just addicted. Anytime I left town, I lost $10,000. I felt like.
And I feel the opposite. Like when I go out of town is when my business goes crazier for some reason.
That's what Matt said yesterday.
Yeah,
you want to sell if you really have that house, you need to sell that listing that has to sell. Just schedule a vacation. That thing will sell while you're gone.
And I don't know about you guys, but the interesting thing to me has been I don't think people are working right now because I'm out all the time. I've been busier since this COVID stuff started than I was before, and I think really honestly, there's more opportunity right now than there was a couple weeks ago. Because most realtors to me are sitting back on their couch, worried, concerned, questioning what's going on, rather than, hey, put the pedal to the metal, look forward, don't look back. And how can we take market share right now? And that's how I'm and I've never been in a shift. So I don't know what a shift is because I've never been in one. And I asked James Shaw that question yesterday. He said, well, what do you do in a shift? He said, you take market share because really you should come out 20 to 30% more business in a shift than you did before.
We thrived during the last. We didn't call it a shift back then. We called it a recession.
Yeah,
and we thrived because we had signs in the yards. I mean, I did well, and it got rid of some realtors too. So I didn't mean let's have a shift. Let's have a little bit of a recession. I didn't mean it to be a virus, for God's sakes, but this is going to weed out some of those onesie twosies, realtors and let the funnel open up for the full-time professional.
And we have too many realtors. Like in our area, I mean, we're a small market area. We've got 600 agents, and it's like we're a small county. It's too many.
When I started, we were like 2,800, and we're over 4,000 now. I think Charlotte has something almost 15,000.
Yeah,
12 to 15 an hour away.
Right, it's crazy. And they've been talking about a shift for 2 years now. It's like. The market's going to shift. Well, it didn't this year. Market's going to shift. Well, it didn't this year.
Correct.
You keep wondering when it was coming, and I think now it's imminent. Of course,
Yeah.
No matter when.
Matt, I don't mean to keep talking if you're trying to wrap up.
No, we're good. I mean, it's
okay.
Whatever it is. We told Robby somewhere between a half an hour and 45 minutes, and we've been 52 minutes. But I
got time. I mean, if you guys got more questions, I'd be happy to stay on for a little bit. So it gets me away from the kids upstairs for a little bit.
Right.
But I mean, and this is really where my passion is. I mean, I really want to get to the point where I can just do this, all the time. But
so do you have? I mean, I'm sure you have goals. Do you do the GPS and 411s at a good level? At a good level.
I do that as a reminder. Here's what my goals are. Here's what I'm tracking. Here's where I'm at. Really, and that's what helped my business a lot was getting on the ALC and really focusing on that.
Thank you for saying that.
Because really, before being on ALC, I didn't know my numbers. I was just like, well, I sold 30 houses. Okay, great. Let's try to do more. But I didn't have any way to track that, even though it was there, even though the systems and models were there. Like when I came into our office, the systems and models that were there for new agents was not what it is now. Mm-hmm. They didn't have an Ignite program like we do now. They didn't have a lot of these things that they had them, but they weren't using them. They weren't implementing them. But now it's done at a much higher level. But ALC really helped me to kind of zero in and hone in on, okay, what are my goals and what were my numbers last month and keeping.
Do you have a maps coach? Like who holds you accountable with your 411s and everything?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I lack in that area. I need to get a maps coach. I've been pushed towards that, and I just haven't taken the leap. I do have coaches, but I don't have a maps coach at this point. They've been trying to get me into maps coaching for 2 years, 3 years probably.
But you do have a coach
right now. It's free.
Yeah, I have a couple coaches. Right now it's free, so now I need to do it.
Listen to the TL.
Yeah, I had a text the other day, and it was, I don't know who it was from, but I took a picture of it because it was hilarious. It was great scripting. The guy texted me, it was a maps coach, texted me and said, "Hey, I just got off the phone with Gary and Keller, and he said that you need a maps coach because you're a top agent." Da, 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 da. I'm like, you didn't get out. Gary doesn't know who I am. Come on. Yeah, right. Gary, he don't know who I am from Adam. But it was good. It was good scripting for sure because those guys are scripting too, trying to get us. I mean, it's a sales scheme, just like what we do is a sales scheme. But
so does your ALC help you with your 411 and GPS, or do y'all do pink and greens? Do you know what a pink and green is?
Yeah, we do pink and green. And then, of course, we do the 411 at the beginning of the year and the GPS at the beginning of the year, too. But we go over our pink and green at every meeting. Of course, right now it's different. But
Yeah.
But yeah, we go over that. So that's hard because who wants to sit down? Thankfully for me, it's been all green other than now. Now I've built it to the fact where it's like, in order for me to grow, I've got to leverage, I've got to hire, I've got to find people because I'm tapped. I thought I was tapped at 50 and then I was able to still grow. So like last year I was up, in some areas over 100%.
But do you do your 411s at the ALC meeting or do you do them on Sunday nights at your house?
Yeah, ALC, we don't do the 411s. We do mainly pink and green. Yeah. So that's really been our focus. And we're going through transition right now because our team leader is now our OP and she moved into a role with the region. So we're hiring a team leader in process of that. So we're in a transition piece right now. So our ALC has kind of been all over the place with that. So we're kind of transitioning.
So we're a brand new market center, and the reason I keep hammering on the GPS and the 411 is because it works.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people are doing it at a high level in our market center because we are new. Some of the veterans are, and we're trying to do better by them. And I'm happy to hear. I mean, I don't know how old you are. You like a young person. I like that you're into that though.
Yeah, I'm 30. How old am I? 35. I get closer to 40.
So if you have the discipline to do a GPS and a 411 instead of just
right
winging it like most of us did before we joined Keller Williams, that's awesome, dude.
And I think the biggest thing for me is just realizing going to family reunion, going to some of these things, going to these breakouts is we got to stop reinventing the wheel and just get back to the basics. I mean,
it's right there.
Read the one thing, read the shift book, and just do what it says. That's what I'm trying to do. Because I didn't do things like I should have when I started. Going back, I wish I would have done it the right way and hired an admin when I got the 20 transactions and, done the hiring the right way because I've failed forward like all of us have. But, really now that's what I'm trying to focus on is, just doing what the book says, shut up and listen.
Yep.
Right. Everybody says after they get into it and do it the wrong way, everybody has to go back and fix it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, cool. Well, we really appreciate you being on.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for the opportunity.
The knowledge bombs.
Well,
thank you for your time, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You guys have my number and my email too. So if I can help in any way, feel free to reach out. And
send your referrals to this guy, y'all. He took some time out for us.
Yeah, that was the last thing I was going to say is he's in Burlington and it's between Raleigh and
Greensboro. So I service Guilford, Greensboro to Raleigh, pretty much everything in between those areas. I kind of live in the middle. So really kind of either direction.
Yep. Cool. Well, very good. Well, thanks a bunch, Robby. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Robby.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great day.
Kids.
I appreciate it.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Have a great one, guys.